Dutch Schultz lay dying in a Newark hospital, his body riddled with bullets, his mind drifting in and out of consciousness. Detectives leaned over him, trying to decipher the strange, fragmented sentences spilling from his mouth. $1 million. Buried in the ground, he whispered, his voice trembling as if he were speaking from another world. His eyes darted around the room, unfocused, terrified. Please, turn off the lights. I'm afraid of the dark. Nurses exchanged glances, unsure whether he was hallucinating or confessing something extraordinary. The detectives listened closely because Schultz wasn't just dying, he was unraveling. And his final words hinted at a secret fortune hidden somewhere in the woods of upstate New York. In that dim hospital room, a legend was born. Dutch Schultz was a man who ruled through fear. In an era dominated by mob strategists like Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, Schultz stood apart as a volatile force of nature, unpredictable, violent, and impossible to control. His empire stretched across bootlegging operations, speakeasies, extortion rackets, and the Harlem numbers game, but his power came at a cost. Schultz's brutality made him rich, but it also made him unstable. His downfall wasn't simply the work of prosecutors or rival gangsters. It was the inevitable collapse of a man who believed he could outshoot fate itself. Arthur Flegenheimer was born in the Bronx in 1902. The son of German-Jewish immigrants struggling to survive in overcrowded tenements. His father abandoned the family when Arthur was still young, leaving him with a deep resentment and a fierce determination to never be powerless again. By his early teens, Arthur was already involved in petty crime, stealing food, pickpocketing, and running with street gangs that roamed the Bronx. Arrests came quickly. At 17, he was sent to prison for burglary, an experience that hardened him and shaped the ruthless persona he would later adopt. New York in the early 20th century was a city of opportunity and desperation. Immigrant neighborhoods were filled with young men who saw crime as the only path to wealth. Arthur was no different. But unlike many, he possessed a cold, calculating rage that set him apart. When he emerged from prison, he reinvented himself. Arthur Flegenheimer faded away. Dutch Schultz was born. Prohibition transformed Dutch Schultz from a street criminal into a bootlegging king. When alcohol became illegal in 1920, Schultz saw opportunity everywhere. He partnered with Joey Noah, a charismatic bootlegger, and together they built a network of speakeasies that stretched across the Bronx and Manhattan. Schultz enforced his territory with brutal efficiency. Rivals who refused to cooperate were beaten, kidnapped, or killed. His reputation grew quickly, not just for violence, but for unpredictability. Even seasoned gangsters found him unnerving. Everything changed when Joey Noah was ambushed and fatally wounded by competitors. Schultz was devastated. Noah had been his closest friend and the stabilizing force in his life. After Noah's death, Schultz became more paranoid, more violent, and more determined to crush anyone who threatened his empire. The Mad King of the underworld emerged, driven by grief and rage. Schultz's most profitable venture came from Harlem, the numbers racket, an underground lottery run, primarily by black entrepreneurs like Stephanie St. Clair. Schultz wanted control, and he was willing to wage war to get it. His men beat numbers, runners in the streets, kidnapped bankers, and terrorized anyone who resisted. Harlem became a battleground. St. Clair fought back fiercely, exposing police corruption tied to Schultz's operations. But the pressure was overwhelming. Eventually, Schultz seized control, earning millions each year. His empire was vast, but it was also unstable. Schultz's paranoia grew. He believed informants were everywhere. He suspected betrayal, even from loyal associates. His meetings became tense, his temper explosive. The more power he gained, the more he feared losing it. By the early 1930s, Schultz had attracted the attention of prosecutor Thomas Dewey, a relentless figure determined to dismantle organized crime. Dewey targeted Schultz's finances, charging him with tax evasion. Schultz responded with theatrics, attempting to charm juries and intimidate witnesses. Against all odds, he was acquitted, but Dewey didn't stop. He pursued Schultz with renewed intensity, and Schultz became obsessed. Convinced Dewey was personally out to destroy him, his paranoia spiraled. He began ranting to associates that Dewey needed to be eliminated. He believed that killing the prosecutor was the only way to save his empire. This wasn't strategy. It was desperation, and it terrified the entire underworld. Schultz stormed into a meeting of the National Crime Syndicate, demanding permission to kill Dewey. The room fell silent. Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, and other major figures understood the consequences. Killing a high-profile prosecutor would bring catastrophic heat on the entire mob. It was suicide. Schultz didn't care. He ranted, threatened, and insisted the hit must happen. The commission made a decision. Dutch Schultz had become too dangerous. If he wouldn't back down, he had to be eliminated. Murder, Inc., the mob's enforcement arm, was given the assignment. The hitmen chosen were professionals. They studied Schultz's routines, tracked his movements, and waited for the perfect moment. The Mad King had sealed his own fate. On October 23, 1935, Schultz was dining at the Palace Chop House in Newark. He sat in a back room, discussing business with his men. Outside, Murder, Inc. Hitmen Charles Workman and Mendy Weiss approached quietly. They entered the restaurant, walked to the back, and opened fire. Bullets tore through the room. Schultz was hit multiple times, collapsing to the floor. His men fell around him, blood pooling across the tiles. Against all odds, Schultz survived the initial assault. He was rushed to the hospital, barely conscious, drifting between reality and delirium. Detectives gathered around his bed, hoping for a confession. What they got instead was a surreal monologue, fragments of memories, fears, and secrets. Schultz's final hours produced one of the strangest deathbed transcripts in criminal history. "I'm sitting in the dining room, looking at the shadow on the wall," he whispered. The safe. Buried in the woods." Detectives tried to decode his words. Was he describing a hidden fortune? Schultz had been known to hide money in secret locations, fearing banks and betrayal. Treasure hunters would later scour forests, rivers, and abandoned buildings, convinced his final words were clues. But the treasure was never found. Whether it existed or was merely the hallucination of a dying man remains one of the great mysteries of American crime lore. Dutch Schultz's death reshaped the underworld. His empire collapsed, his territories were divided, and his enemies celebrated the end of a tyrant. But his legend endured. He became a symbol of unchecked ambition, paranoia, and the violent chaos of the Prohibition-era. His story is a reminder of how quickly power can turn into madness, how a man who once controlled vast criminal networks could end his life whispering riddles in a hospital bed. And somewhere in the forests of New York, treasure hunters still search, hoping to uncover the final secret of Dutch Schultz. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to my channel.